Hello again everybody and welcome back to Fujit's Blitz, and today we're going to look at more history, and this time we're looking at even more bizarre units, this time the Dirlewanger Brigade or the 36th Waffen SS. Now when we look at the Waffen SS, images conjure up of the all black with the swastika armbanded super soldier, the elite, the true Aryan master race, the blonde-haired and the blue-eyed guards for Adolf Hitler. In fact, that is the first Leibstandarte SS, which was the personal guard of Hitler, the Führer of Germany. And the SS itself was portrayed as the most elite of all the German armed forces, and they did hold a very big ceremonial function, as you can see here. Thing is, as the war progressed, the SS generally dropped their recruitment criteria, and it wasn't just open to the Germanic super soldier anymore. In fact, the SS had more foreign volunteers than any other arm of the armed forces in Germany, and one of those units was this, the 36th Waffen SS Division. Now this unit was formed in 1940 under explicit orders from Heinrich Himmler, the head of the SS. Initially it was comprised of petty criminals, poachers to be exact, who were serving prison sentences for poaching crimes other than trap setting. The idea being that they wanted to utilize the skills of hunting and to be more of a traditional Jaeger type unit. Now, the true translation of Jaeger from German to British is actually hunter, and the Jaeger were initially brought about, there's a picture of them there, as light infantry. So there are steep traditions in the term Jaeger, so the initial concepts kind of made sense. Himmler gave command of the unit to a guy called Oskar Dirlewanger, who was a German born in Würzburg. Initially he served in the Prussian army in 1913 in the Konrad Karl regiment, and he served with distinction, earning the Iron Cross first and second class. After World War I, he joined various Free Corps units and was eventually arrested by the police for various activities. He was once described as mentally unstable, a violent fanatic and habitual alcoholic with a tendency to erupt into extreme violence, ironically. In 1922, he actually obtained his PhD in political science from the Goethe University in Frankfurt, and he then joined the Nazi Party. During the interwar period, however, he was repeatedly arrested for various crimes, ranging from illegal firearms possession to embezzlement. In 1934, he was actually convicted of raping a 14-year-old. Upon his release, he was again arrested for more sexual deviant behaviour and sent to the Wautzheim concentration camp. However, because he had some very good friends in very high places, particularly a gentleman called Gottlieb Berger, there is a picture of him, who was the chief of SS Recruitment, he was actually released and reinstated. He then was sent to Spain as part of the Legion Condor unit, effectively Nazi soldiers learning their trade by fighting alongside Franco's fascists, and they are infamous for the destruction of Guernica, which inspired Pablo Picasso's painting. Dirlewanger himself distinguished himself in the fighting, and upon his return to Germany he petitioned to have his criminal past removed, and he was successful because of his actions in Spain, and he was reinstated into the German fold and given back his PhD. It was also at this time that he joined the SS as an Obersturmführer, and was basically tasked by Himmler to setting up this 36th Waffen SS division. From the very beginning, however, various senior Nazis and SS commanders raised numerous vocal concerns about this unit and its composition, because it was comprised of petty criminals who, under Nazi law, were exempted from carrying any arms, and therefore they were not eligible for conscription into the Wehrmacht. But now they were able to join the elite SS, which was a major concern. There was a practical solution, however, to this, and what they did, they decided that the unit was not going to be called SS. It was never going to be designated as an SS unit, merely under the control of the SS, which is basically semantics, as we all know. Initially, they were sent in 1940 to Poland and designated to do guard duties in Lublin. The unit, however, whilst not in combat, was nevertheless carrying out many criminal acts such as murder and rape, so much so that the General Government's police chief, Friedrich Wilhelm Krüger, complained to the highest levels of the Nazi Party, and the unit was transferred from Poland to Belarus in 1942. Here in Belarus, they were under the command of Erich von den Bach, and they were tasked with anti-partisan activities alongside the Rona or Kaminsky Brigade, which was basically a German unit that was comprised solely of Russian nationals. Their preferred method, however, of anti-partisan activity was to round up civilians, put them in a barn and set them on fire, and set up a machine gun and shoot anybody who tried to escape. This was called partisan deterrent. Over 30,000 civilians were killed by the unit during this time under their so-called anti-partisan activities. The unit itself was so savage in dealing with both the Jews and partisans that SS commanders, even those in charge of the Einsatzgruppen or the extermination squads operating at the time, complained so much about the unit that an SS court was called in to carry out investigations into the way they acted. Now, at this stage, whilst the unit was not part of the SS order of battle, they were entitled to hold SS ranks, but instead of the typical SS collar patch, they wore initially a patch of crossed guns, which was finally replaced by the divisional insignia, which had two crossed hand grenades. In 1943, while still in Belarus, the unit was with Army Group Center, and it saw every action in the attempt to stop the Soviet advance. At this stage, the unit suffered major losses, mainly due to the ineptitude of its commanders. Dirlewanger himself, however, was awarded the German Gold Cross, which is awarded for extreme bravery, and is actually ranked higher than the Iron Cross, but lower than the Knight's Cross. The unit itself had been savaged by the fighting, and was now only down to about 259 men. Replacements were therefore sent for, and these turned up in the form of some of the most violent criminals found in Germany. Because by this stage of the war there weren't many poachers left, so the unit was being repopulated with effectively rapists, murderers, and other such violent people. In 1944, the Russians launched Operation Bagration, which was the big push into Ukraine and eventually into Poland, and the unit was called in to continue a few rearguard type actions which severely mauled it. It mauled it so much due to poor combat skills and bad leadership that it was withdrawn from the line and sent back to Poland. Upon its return to Poland, however, the Warsaw Uprising began, and the unit once again teamed up with the Kaminsky Brigade and was sent to Warsaw in order to try and put down it, where, under Himmler's own orders, they were given a free rein to do whatever they pleased. And this is where the unit itself became infamous. In what is now known as the Wola massacre, the unit indiscriminately murdered anything that moved. Over 40,000 people were killed in just under 2 weeks. Interestingly, when the unit first arrived, it had a strength of 895 men, but this was increased to 2,500 by effectively trawling the concentration camps, particularly the Danzig concentration camp, for the very worst criminals that the Germans held there. Militarily, however, they were very poor as a unit, and during the Warsaw action the unit lost 2,733. This is actually totaling a rise of 315% of its actual strength. The unit itself did not hold itself out as a professional soldiering organisation. In fact, during the Warsaw Uprising, the unit was responsible for burning down 3 hospitals with the patients still inside. Furthermore, they would round up the nurses and the doctors rape them, torture them, and then hang them to music. Later on, they would basically just drink, rape, and murder their way through the whole town, slaughtering anything in sight. Their favoured mechanism was to round people up, put them into buildings, much like they used to do with the anti-partisan stuff, and set them on fire. The unit was so notoriously bad that even the commander of the action, Erich von den Bach, who we'd seen earlier, complained that the unit was nothing more than a herd of pigs and they should be destroyed. However, this did not prevent Dirlewanger from being recommended for the Knight's Cross and for a promotion. After the Polish resistance surrendered, however, the unit was upgraded to a full brigade and it was incorporated fully back into the Waffen SS, and it was soon filled out with almost 4,000 men. It was then sent to Slovakia in order to quash the Slovak uprising, and it conducted itself in very similar veins as it did in Warsaw. The unit played a large part in quashing the rebellion, however, but as per Warsaw, they also lost a lot of men. So much so that now, with the outcome of the war almost being certain, they found that a lot of communists and socialists were applying to be in the unit, mainly for the reasons to defect to the Russians. At the same time, Himmler sent the now disgraced commander of the 4th SS Polizel unit, Fritz Schmedes, to be there as a punishment. It was effectively like a penal battalion. The unit was then sent to Hungary, where, because of the makeup of the communists and socialists that had now recruited, it began to disintegrate as many fled. In 1945, the unit was sent to the Oder front in Germany in an attempt to stall the Soviet advance. It was now bolstered by regular army units, and during the action, Dirlewanger himself was severely wounded, and Schmedes took command. Desertion became rife at this stage. When Schmedes tried to reorganize, he found that the unit barely existed. The unit had disintegrated into absolute mayhem, with part of it, the 73rd SS Regiment, which was part of the Dirlewanger Brigade, lynching its commander, a former Dachau concentration camp commander, Erich Hielers, who had been convicted of corruption. They lynched him, killed him, and basically rebelled. On the 1st of May 1945, the Soviets effectively wiped the unit out in the Elbe pocket. Those left ran as fast as they could to the US units on the Elbe River and surrendered en masse. By the end of the war, over 700 men survived. Dirlewanger himself was captured by the Free French forces and was killed by Polish soldiers in Hautschaulsen. In 2009, the Polish authorities claimed to have identified numerous surviving members of the unit and intended to prosecute them because of the numerous atrocities that they committed on Polish soil. The unit itself has become quite popular, especially with neo-Nazi and far-right movements, whereas you can now buy t-shirts emblazoned with the unit's emblem, ironically, especially when it's considering that this unit was neither professional or capable. It was effectively just a bunch of some of the worst criminals that the Germans had, effectively murdering and raping their way across Europe under the pretense of being soldiers. In fact, the unit's emblem is currently in use by the IDA unit, which is a Ukrainian volunteer unit fighting in Donbass and Mariupol, which, when considering the history and notoriety of this unit, is alarming to say the least. The reason why this one for me is strange but true is because there's a misunderstanding that the SS as an entity was there on racial pure grounds. They were the elite, they were the master race of blonde hair and blue-eyed personnel, which clearly this unit puts to bed. It was nothing but a criminal organization comprised of some of the worst elements of society. Anyway, that is the 36th Waffen SS Division, also known as the Dirlewanger Division, one of the most despicable and notorious units of not only the Waffen SS but the German armed forces as a whole. If you like these videos, by all means please comment and all that stuff below. If you haven't yet, please subscribe and tell me if you want some more of these type of videos. I've been Fujit. I hope that has been educational. The next video will be this one. It will be the history of the Badger, a tier 10 British tank destroyer in World of Tanks Blitz. So stay tuned for that one. And until then, bye for now.